All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today, as you could tell by the title, I'm installing pusher grid heater delete and intake horn. So we don't want that bolt from the grid heater to fall into my cylinder, so time to delete it. So the basis of what we got to do is remove this intake horn. The grid heater's under that. We got to remove all the injector fuel lines, and then the fuel rail back there. You can't really see it on camera, but fuel rail, and then we should be able to take the grid heater plate and all that off, swap it out with the open design one, and put that, there we go. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about the bolt from the grid heater falling into the cylinder, there's a bolt on the bottom of the grid heater where electricity runs through, gets hot, and then there's a tendency for the bolt to snap and fall down into your cylinder 6, I think it falls into, and then cracks your block from there, cracks the cylinder, whatever. But we don't want that happening, so. All right, so I went ahead and covered my paint with saran wrap so I don't scratch anything. Put a blanket on top to lean on. Now I'm gonna get started taking the intake horn off. Intake horn is out. And as you can see, this is what EGRs do to your air. I've had my weight loss, weight loss program done to my truck for about a year. And this is from beforehand. So not too good for your motor, putting all that soot back into it. But now I'm gonna start taking off these lines, that wire, and then I should be able to start on my injector lines and then fuel rail, and then we'll be able to take the whole grid heater off itself. All right, so I got all the crankcase breather or crankcase filter breather lines off, all the electrical moved out of the way, sensors unplugged. Now I'm gonna get to taking off each of the injector fuel lines, then unbolt the fuel rail and pull that out. All the fuel lines are off. Return and supply lines are off. Make sure you put your fuel lines in order. So I got cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you gotta take a banjo bolt off for the supply line. Or no, return line, supply line. I don't remember. But you gotta make sure you don't lose this washer from the top. It's between the fuel rail and the line. So make sure you squeeze that out, keep it safe. And now I'm going to get to removing the fuel rail off it. That's next. All right, so got the fuel rail out. There are just 2 bolts there. Is that it? Uh-oh, it's going out again. 3 bolts. All right, 3 more bolts on the grid heater plate, and then this whole grid heater will come off. All right, the grid heater's out, and that is just sad how big and filthy the intake manifold is. But here's the grid heater. Here's the killer bolt right there. So that's what heats up from this and falls into your cylinder or your intake manifold and cylinder 6. But mine luckily didn't fall out, so we're good. Time to get rid of this junk. All right, so it's been like 2 days since I've touched the grid heater because I got busy doing other stuff. But today I'm gonna finish it up. We're gonna clean out the intake and get the gasket off there. I gotta remove the grid heater line from the solenoid, and then we'll slap the plate on and then the new horn, put all the injector lines back on, put the fuel rail back on. All right, so I went ahead, put the grid heater plate on, delete plate on, and I put the bolts in that do not need the fuel rail on. So the 4 bolts here, there, one back there, and one on the other side of the sensor. Make sure you switch this sensor over before you put it on. And then I'm gonna go get the fuel rail. Got little circle like spacers to put between here, and then put the fuel rail on top of those, and then I'm gonna bolt it down. So I'll catch you then. All right, fuel rail's back in, so now time for the injector lines. All right, so I got everything else hooked up, and now it's time to put the intake horn back on, or my new intake horn. So there it is, all installed, ready to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna be I bought an SMB cold air intake that I'm gonna be installing soon, so look out for that video. And I got more to come for the engine bay, so stay tuned.